What? Bang!
Pro Wrestling Podcast. Just when they think they got the answers, I change the question.
Rep screwed rep.
Yeah! Woo!
Who are you to doubt El Dandy? Because this guy's a serious professional.
Did he do it?
Too hot to handle and too cold to hold. And I am Macho King Savage.
Shut your mouth, you thong-wearing fatty. I said WWE stands for... It's me, Austin. I will never retire.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, welcome to the show where we don't sing it, we bring it. Help us out and click subscribe to show your support. And if you're a YouTube user, click the bell so it notifies you every time a new episode goes live. Are you sick and tired of dropping $60 to $100 for the latest and greatest wrestling game? Stop immediately. Go to Wrestler Unstoppable, available exclusively through Facebook. Create a wrestler, sign contracts, get into storylines, headline PLEs, even build your own corporation, all included in Wrestler Unstoppable, available now to all Facebook users, totally free. If you want to become a member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family, you want your name in the shoutouts, like my good buddy John down in Texas. John, love giving you that shout out. Then you got to go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/Pro Wrestling Podcast. Sign up today. We got loyalty rewards. $15 a month contributor, you co-host an episode with me. $7.50 a month into a drawing to also co-host with myself, just like John and I, recording some Patreon exclusive content over the next couple weeks. We're trying to get that out, and that should be out very shortly for all of our Patreon members. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. If you've got questions, comments, something you want us to touch on in a future episode, give us a call. Pro Wrestling Sound Off Line 267-642-1160, and we will get to those questions or comments or concerns or whatever it is in a future episode. Tonight, we've got a hit on the day's news and rumors. We're reacting kind of live to SmackDown as it goes down in the background while I'm doing this with you guys, and then we're going to get into the day's news and then eventually get to our predictions. We've got All Out, we've got Wrestlepalooza, we want to get to all of it. Let's get started. Raja Jackson arrested, charged with felony following an attack on indie wrestler Psycho Stu. We talked about this a few weeks ago on our show, and just about everybody in the wrestling world has. TMZ reporting he was taken into custody Thursday morning and charged with a felony. He's being held on $50,000 bond. This all stems from the video that he recorded and was live streaming at a Knox Pro wrestling event out in California, where there was somehow the messages got crossed. Psycho Stu thought he was another performer in the back. They saw cameras recording and all this stuff, and somehow it led to Psycho Stu hitting him in the head with an empty beer can, which then resulted in them trying to, rectify the situation by putting him into a wrestling situation at their event, where he sat ringside, charged into the ring, and just pummeled the heck out of Psycho Stu. Legit. It wasn't a work. It was totally a shoot. And even after Stu was out cold from slamming him to the mat, this guy pummeled him into oblivion and did serious damage to Psycho Stu. This, I think it's pretty much universal, with the exception of Rampage Jackson himself. Pretty much everybody has detested this situation. Rampage Jackson somehow still defending his son, showing no remorse. It's absolutely ridiculous. He's been asking him to investigate other people at the venue, including Psycho Stu. But at this point, right now, Raja Jackson has been arrested. We'll have to monitor that situation closely, and we will keep you updated in future episodes. Interesting news coming out today from Scott D'Amore. If you don't know who Scott D'Amore is, we've talked about him on this show several times. He is the former head of TNA Wrestling. He's left that organization 2024, early 2024. They relieved him of his duties. He now has restarted Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling and having an interesting conversation with regards to the business of TNA in the past. And he was having a conversation with Kurt Angle on Uncrowned. And in that conversation, Brock Lesnar came up, and Kurt Angle revealed that Brock Lesnar was in talks with TNA back in 2007, and that there were reports back then it was happening. Nobody knew whether to believe it or not, but D'Amore is confirming Kurt Angle really wanted to bring him in and do something with him. They were very excited about it. Now, obviously, if you look, hindsight's 2020, look back, Dixie Carter was not interested at the time. Who knows how different the wrestling landscape would be? But think about Brock Lesnar. This is 2007. This is before he goes to UFC and becomes UFC heavyweight champion. It could have been a very different wrestling landscape for Brock Lesnar, very different future had he gone to TNA. When he left WWE, he ended up doing some stuff with the NFL, eventually transitioning to UFC, becoming UFC heavyweight champion, and then eventually returning to WWE. Much of that may have been very different. Vince McMahon, some of his appeal is the fact that Brock was a former UFC heavyweight champion when he returned. If that was not the case because he got sidetracked, when he left WWE, he was doing some things with New Japan, but this would have been much bigger, more substantial. Maybe that's why it never came to fruition. You know how Brock is. He wants a specific schedule, and maybe that's what it was. I don't know. I don't want to speculate too much, but it's definitely interesting to see how he could have ended up in TNA. And speaking of TNA, Dave Meltzer talking on Wrestling Observer Radio, as was echoed by the guys on Busted Open, Bully Ray, and the rest of the crew, talking about TNA and their relationship with WWE NXT. If you're watching Homecoming, many of the TNA roster were talking trash on Twitter, being offended and whatnot that they weren't at the show. Talents like Mustafa Ali, Mike Santana, Ash by Elegance, who's formerly used to be Dana Brooke in WWE, they were on Twitter throughout the show, complaining about being disrespected. And the word is, coming out of Wrestling Observer Radio, is that this is going to lead to a TNA versus NXT feud, a big invasion angle, which this is the right time of year for that. This is when we usually see War Games. Maybe we will see a War Games situation, Team TNA versus Team NXT. Not sure how that would play out. I think it was kind of messed up that at Homecoming you teased that with Shawn Michaels and Triple H, because now if you want to do this, it almost takes away from that interaction they had there with William Regal. But definitely exciting to see that, because I was waiting to see some kind of big development between TNA and WWE. But Meltzer also recently reported that it is absolutely in WWE's contract with this situation with TNA that they do have the opportunity to purchase the company. That is huge, and I do think at some point that is going to be what's going to happen. Right now, they're looking for streaming deals, they're looking for television distribution deals to get on a bigger platform, but I think as time goes on, and if this relationship really does foster great communication and matches and things between the talent, I would not be surprised to see WWE acquire TNA and use it as yet another brand under their umbrella. And that should be very exciting and something that everybody would have more opportunities. Take guys who are not doing anything in WWE of meaning and put them over to TNA. Let them get refreshed. Let them get some new angles, work with some new talent, and then you bring them back and they're bigger than better than ever. People who are in TNA who need a push to the main roster, like, for example, Joe Hendry is slowly being phased out of TNA's programming because he is expected to make a full-time move to WWE in early 2026. It could do that as well, where you have guys who you've basically done everything they can in TNA and you bring them to WWE. People in WWE who've done so much or have maybe gotten a little, I hate to say the word stale, in WWE can transition to TNA and almost refresh their character and bring them back at a later time. And it really keeps it so the investment you've made in that intellectual property is still paying dividends later on. Word came out that we know what the card is, or at least part of the card for WrestlePalooza. We have heard that on the Pat McAfee show that Brock Lesnar and John Cena will open the show, and then earlier today it was announced that the show is going to be closed. It was revealed on X that the show will close with Cody Rhodes defending the WWE Undisputed Championship against Drew McIntyre, which, in my personal opinion, if you weren't going to put Cena and Brock on last, they have to go first. I get that. And if you look at how it lines up, and they talked about this on both Busted Open Radio, WrestleZone, Wrestle Talk News. Everybody has the same feel about this. If you look at the scheduling of the timing of starting and stopping of shows, All Out is going to start around 3 o'clock, so that means the end of All Out, the main events of All Out, are going to probably end up running up against John Cena and Brock Lesnar, which could draw a lot of people away from that AEW audience. And keeping in mind that All Out is a paid show, just like it looks like WrestlePalooza is going to be. So this will be interesting to see what the Cena-Lesnar match does to the viewership of the main event of AEW's programming. Is it counter-programming? ESPN people were on earlier this week talking about how that's not the case. They just want to blow up the initial number, the first PLE on the show. And then I love Bully Ray had a great take on this week on Busted Open Radio, where he said, for the rest of time, you look back, you look at what was the first PLE match ever for ESPN, John Cena versus Brock Lesnar, two of the biggest names in the history of the business, and that will be the moment. Who do you want to be that? Do you want it to be a convoluted conversation about the mixed tag team match? Do you want it to be the Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre thing? Maybe you don't think McIntyre is a big enough name to be that historic of a moment. Cena Lesnar clearly is, and I actually think that makes a lot of sense, but at this point, they're going to open the show, and the show's going to close with what I think is the wrong match. Rhodes and McIntyre should be earlier in the card, midway, because I think the show should be closed out by the Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch versus Punk AJ Lee match. I think that is the bigger draw at the show. Everyone wants to see what AJ Lee can do after all this time off, but we have no idea what's going to happen. Now, as we feed into that show, tonight on SmackDown, Brock Lesnar opens a show threatening Dragon... oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm just drawing a blank on announcers' names. But anyways, getting in the ring, hitting 2 F5s on Corey Graves, which was interesting because Corey Graves doesn't wrestle anymore. So when Michael Cole, it was Michael Cole. How can I not remember Michael Cole's name? So he goes to Michael Cole's near ringside. Brock Lesnar grabs him, picks him up, carries him around the ring, takes him in the ring. It's clear he's going to attack Michael Cole. Corey Graves came in to try to calm things down, and he hit a couple F5s on Corey Graves, laying him out, leading to The Miz doing commentary. The show has been amazing. I'm not a big fan of the fact that they had this 3-way match booked for next week for the Women's Championship on SmackDown. I think that they needed to do something tonight as a major lead-in to WrestlePalooza. They should have done it tonight, but at least we know there's some resolution there. Sami Zayn's Open Challenge went very well. Great match. He and Carmelo, he retains. Just a lot of things going on. So we're ready to go for WrestlePalooza. I'm going to get into WrestlePalooza first just because it is a shorter card. I'm sorry, when I pull up the cards and I look at them, and you got 5 matches on WWE's card, and then when you go over to All Out, and you're literally looking at a rack of 13 matches, it's very different way to produce television and PLEs. So going to WWE, let's run through the matches real quick. Let's give our prediction. We know the show's going to open with John Cena versus Brock Lesnar. There's a lot of ways you could look at this. I listened to Dave LaGreca and Bully Ray go back round and round about this. I've listened to the predictions on WrestleZone and various other online streaming influencers. Here's the thing. I think this is Cena's last go-around. Brock Lesnar's already had that dominant performance at SummerSlam 2014. We don't need to see another one of those. Lesnar, the way he wiped out Corey Graves, the way he's been so dominant in everything he's done since he's been back, he doesn't hurt his legacy at all to take a loss here. If I'm WWE, I book John Cena to win this. However, when you look at Dave LaGreca's approach, he looks at this as there's a possibility that Brock goes over here to set up a rematch later. With Cena only having 6 dates left, there's very limited things you could do with that, and this could lead to another return match and he and Brock again. I hate that idea. It would make sense, but I hate the idea because I want to see Cena work with as many people as he can before he leaves. And realistically, if he only has 5 or 6 appearances left, then you're looking at a situation where every appearance isn't a match. So now how many actual matches does John have left? Maybe 2 or 3, and you've got a 4-month period. So you got all of the rest of September, October, November, December. That's a lot of time to fill when you only have 5 opportunities, and some of it has to be promos, building up these matches. So maybe we get 3 more matches after this from John Cena. Probably more like 2. If that's the case, do you really want one of the last 2 matches John Cena ever has to be with Brock Lesnar? Quite frankly, I saw somebody suggest that it should be Dominic Mysterio and have him cheat John Cena out of his final match. You could do the storyline where Cena's never held the Intercontinental Championship. He's trying to win that on the way out the door, and Dom cheats to win in John Cena's last match. I actually have no problem with that. I think it'd be phenomenal. John giving him the rub. Right now, Dominic's in a phenomenal position to really take off. Double champion, all that stuff. But we'll have to wait and see. There's so many guys I would love to see Cena have the opportunity to work with before he goes, and we are running out of time to do that, and I don't really want to waste 2 of them on Brock. My official prediction, John Cena wins here. Brock Lesnar, dominant, but does not pick up the win. The Usos take on The Vision, Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. I see no reason for the Usos to win this. They're not going to be challenging for the Tag Team Championship any soon, whereas Bronson and Braun could be. I think Jay has established that he needs to be a single star. This could lead to a Jay Uso heel turn where he feuds again with Jimmy, but this time Jimmy becoming the good guy, and maybe Jimmy starts getting a little bit of a push as a single star. They were talking about a U.S. title run leading into WrestleMania. That never came to fruition. Maybe they do that now if Jay does flip. How does Roman get involved in this? Because at some point, clearly he will. But when we look at this, Bronson and Braun need this. They need this because at some point they have to win the Tag Team Championship, because all these dominant groups, you got Seth Rollins with the World Heavyweight Championship, Becky Lynch with the Intercontinental Championship, and these guys need to win one of the Tag Team titles, probably the Raw Tag Team Championship, WWE Tag Team Championship, so that they can carry all the gold. That's what these huge factions always do. So I predict the Usos fall here to The Vision, Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker, and potentially we see a Jay Uso heel turn. Now we also have to wonder what's going to happen with LA Knight. Could be a little crazy. We'll have to wait and see. I hope he doesn't get involved at all, because if he does, it's going to ruin what could be a phenomenal match. Io Sky, Stephanie Vaquer, WWE Women's World Championship. This match, it makes no sense to me for anybody to win this but Stephanie Vaquer, because Io clearly has to have a program with Asuka coming up very soon. I could see a situation where Asuka comes out to help her even though she doesn't want the help, leading to some kind of schmaz situation where Vaquer picks up the victory and wins the Women's Championship. Io goes on to face off with Asuka in a feud of their own, and that gets Io out of the championship picture for a hot minute because she's been in it for so long. And then Stephanie can move on to other things, which we would love to see, things like Vaquer versus Rhea Ripley, Vaquer versus just about anybody else. Give us a Raquel Rodriguez. You could put her in with Roxanne Perez. Do some of these matches as her being Women's World Champion. I think it could be a great opportunity. And you could even ride her all the way into January and have her give the championship up at the Royal Rumble leading into whatever it is you want to do at WrestleMania. And that gives her a great long run as Women's Champion. Long in terms of, 2025 kind of long. Other than, Roman Reigns, everybody has a couple months. Give her the couple months and then lead into a great program with somebody else heading into Mania. We'll have to see how that plays out. Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre. We know it's going to finish the show. Obviously, I'm going in a different order for a reason. I'm going in order I think it should be. Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre. There is no chance Drew McIntyre wins this match unless WWE is insane. This just doesn't make sense. It's a good match. Should be solid. Should be physical. These guys have history. Former tag team champions together. Drew is one of the best workers in the business and clearly does not get the respect he deserves, because I think he is absolutely underappreciated. But in this match, Cody Rhodes needs to win this for other things that look so clear down the road. The only way I see Cody Rhodes losing this match is if we have a Randy Orton interference going heel, helping Drew win the championship, which doesn't make any sense to me. But that's the only thing I could see to lead to something with Cody and Randy. But I'd like to push that off, because I'd like to see Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania. Not here, not this early, not at Survivor Series, not at the Royal Rumble. That is a WrestleMania level match. That's where I want to see it. So I don't think that's going to happen yet. But at some point, Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton are going to get in the ring, and it's going to be phenomenal. And what I think should be the main event, CM Punk, AJ Lee versus Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, mixed tag team match. If the Brawns win, I think Rollins and Becky Lynch can lose. If the Brawns lose, there's no chance Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch lose, because you can't have the Vision lose both matches. Can you have them win both matches? Possibly, but you've already shafted Punk out of the World Championship. He got shafted against Cena. How many times can you shaft Punk over before you got to give the guy a win at some point? And it's AJ Lee's return match. I have a tough time with that. If Lee picks up the win, now I've seen people talk about like Punk is going to hit the GTS on Becky Lynch and Lee will pick up the pin. I don't love that idea. The guy just said how he would never hit a woman. If he was going to hit a woman anyways, then we didn't need AJ Lee. You could have done that on the show without bringing your wife in. You brought your wife in for a reason. But if she hits the GTS, I think that would be amazing, and she could pin Becky. Now, I'd much rather see AJ Lee just put her into her submission hold and get the submission victory, leading to an Intercontinental Championship program with Becky Lynch, where Becky Lynch could retain in their first match, though they have one win apiece, and then lead to a bigger match, probably at the Royal Rumble, where AJ Lee could win the Intercontinental Championship. She's still not in the World Championship picture, which is fine, and she could go on to have a great feud with somebody else heading into Mania. Perhaps Stephanie Vaquer, who I already predicted I would have lose the Women's Championship at Royal Rumble, and that would free her up to work with AJ Lee. I think they would have incredible styles working together. The last thing we got to get to tonight, which I don't mean to say that like it's disrespectful in any way, shape, or form. It's just the nature and flow of things. We got to talk about All Out coming tomorrow as well. Let's go through the matches. There are 13 of them. On the pre-show, Harley Cameron, Mina Shirakawa, Queen Amanada, Willow Nightingale versus Megan Bayne, Penelope Ford, and the Triangle of Madness, Julia Hart and Sky Blue. Who cares who wins this? This is Tony Khan booking like a New Japan show where you throw all these like multi-person matches on before the show actually starts. Whatever, don't care. Who cares who wins? Let's just pick one at random. Let's go with Megan Bayne, Penelope Ford, and the Triangle of Madness, okay? That's my prediction. This show's going to have 13 matches on it. It's going to go for like 5 hours. So we don't have time for like all these crazy matches, but whatever. It is what it is. Daniel Garcia versus Katsuyori Shibata is going to take place at the show. Garcia recently turning heel. He should be on the main card doing something. Probably with Darby Allin, but he's not. Darby Allin's doing a coffin match later in the show with Jon Moxley, so Garcia gets this with Shibata. There is no chance he loses to Shibata, not when he just turned heel. This is an easy one. Daniel Garcia beats Katsuyori Shibata. The Ops, Samoa Joe and Powerhouse Hobbs versus the Workhorsemen, Anthony Henry and JD Drake. Sounds like it could be a quality match, but there's no chance Samoa Joe and Powerhouse Hobbs don't win this match. They will. They'll conquer the Workhorsemen and move on, hopefully to bigger and better things. Let's get to the main card. Cope and Christian, the reunion of Edge and Christian. Cope and Christian taking on FTR. This match could have been something bigger. I think they've really dropped the ball in the interview segments leading into the pay-per-view. However, there is no reason to put Edge and Copeland back together, or Edge and Cage back together, unless they're going to pick up the win here. I think they need to pick up the win here, but they won't. My prediction is FTR wins, because the bigger storyline is something you can't do right now because of the way they booked this. I think FTR wins here, and FTR will very soon win the World Tag Team Championship, because I think Cope and Christian will win the Tag Team Championship from FTR at a later date. Maybe Wrestle Dream, I don't know. Some other pay-per-view. Worlds Collide something. I'm just throwing out pay-per-view names at this point. But not here. I don't think they win it here. My prediction is FTR. Hurt Syndicate, Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, and MVP getting in the ring. Not the normal thing lately anymore. He's more of a manager, but he's wrestling at this show versus Ricochet and Bishop Khan, Toa Leona. This is going to be huge. This is going to be a decent match, hard hitting. Hopefully, I love that there's so much going on here. And the Gates of Agony, really, I feel like have brought a youthful excitement and power to this that matches up well with Lashley and Benjamin. Obviously, I think the Hurt Syndicate wins. I don't think there's any chance they lose. But I hope that this spins Bobby Lashley eventually out of the tag team division and into a singles spot where he could start going for the world championship, because that's where he belongs. Certainly at his age, and I'm not crapping on Bobby Lashley. The guy's in phenomenal shape. He always will be. That guy is amazing. He's a machine. But he is a guy who should be tearing through the upper part of the card, and instead he's toiling in the tag team division. And I get it. You're helping Shelton and MVP stay relevant. But they could do their thing as a tag team, and he could go on and be a major single star, which is what they did in WWE and was very successful. They should do it again here. Mercedes Moné versus Rio for the TBS Championship. My opinion, purely my opinion, Rio has absolutely no chance to win this match. Moné retains the championship because there's somebody else coming in the near future who's taken that belt from her because she's had it for so long. We're going to wait and see what happens there. As I said earlier, Darby Allin, Jon Moxley, coffin match. It's a coffin match. Realistically, on paper, you think there's no chance Darby Allin wins, but I think because it's the coffin match and he does the coffin drop and Darby's been gone for so long, scaling Mount Everest, I think Darby Allin picks up the win here over Jon Moxley. Clearly, there'll be outside interference from various people, but I think Darby Allin has to win this, or why even push him the way you have been? Doesn't make any sense to me. Mark Briscoe, MJF, a tables and tacks match, like whatever. There's no way MJF loses this match. He will beat Mark Briscoe, but this should be a bloody, violent occasion, something you don't get from MJF very frequently. It'll be fun to see it here. Timeless Tony Storm, Jamie Hayter, Chris Statlander, Thelka for the AEW Women's World Championship. Interesting matchup because you have an opportunity here for Tony Storm to not get pinned and lose her championship. You can keep her strong, not hurt her character, and have somebody else pick up the win. If I'm Tony Khan, man, this is a tough one. You could go Jamie Hayter here to reheat her, or you could go with Thelka, somebody who you probably don't think. And really, if I'm looking at this, I feel like I want to say Thelka. I really do, but I'm not. I'm going to say Tony Storm retains, even though I don't think it's the best booking decision. I'd love to see Statlander go heel here and just tear into Tony Storm and lead to a big feud with them again, but I really believe Tony Storm is going to retain. Kyle Fletcher, Hangman Page, AEW World Heavyweight Championship. Fletcher, he is one of the most talented young men in the business. That kid he may be the future of the business, much the same way Braun Breaker is in WWE, but this is not going to be his night. There's no chance. I don't think it's time yet. Adam Page, the Hangman, is going to retain over Kyle Fletcher. Kazuchika Okada defending the AEW Unified Championship against Konosuke Takeshita and Masquerade Dorada. Again, no chance here. Okada retains. If anybody were to beat him, it would be Takeshita. I don't think that'll happen, but it is a three-way. So there's a small chance Takeshita can win it here, beating Dorada, leading to Okada having to go through the tournament to regain his championship later this year when they do the Continental Classic. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. I'm going to predict, though, that Okada retains. The return match, Big Bill versus a returning Eddie Kingston. There's no reason to book this match unless Eddie Kingston wins the match. My prediction is simple, Eddie Kingston. And then one of the matches, the last one I'm going to talk about is the one that I really find to be the most intriguing. We have got the Don Callis family of Hechicero and Josh Alexander taking on Kevin Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey, Jet Speed, taking on the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, challenging all three of those, challenging Brody King and Bandito for the AEW World Tag Team Championship in a four-way ladder match. This could be the moment that the Young Bucks have been waiting for to regain the World Tag Team Championship and go into other programs, where I think we could see the Young Bucks and FTR eventually get into another match, leading to the Young Bucks losing the championship to FTR, who eventually lose it to Edge and Christian. If not, look at the rest of the teams on this match. It's not going to be Hechicero and Josh Alexander. That doesn't make sense to me. Kevin Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey also doesn't make sense to me. Brodito is over so much with the fans. They make a lot of sense to retain. And the Young Bucks, their programming the last several months have been very interesting. That's why it could go either way. My official prediction, Brodito retains, but I don't love it. I'm just saying. But I think Brodito will retain because of how popular they have been the last several months in AEW, and this could be their opportunity to really solidify themselves at the top of the tag team card. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us next episode. We run down the latest wrestling news and rumors. Special thanks as always out to Suno for generating the music and sound effects in our show. Today's show sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bring a new friend to family game night. It's easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this game from Beazle Games by going to thegamecrafter.com and pick up your copy today. If you're looking for your next career move, you're considering college or university life, maybe you just need some formal training for your next career decision, go to our website at frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs, as Fro Life educational planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Dr. Fro. I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us today. Until next time, have a great night, take care everybody, and enjoy All Out and Wrestlepalooza.